Okay, so yesterday we have already covered some of the functions. So those functions were like how to find out the sign of a given number, how to round off a given number, how to power up, and how to find the modulus of any of the number. So those who are not there in yesterday's lecture, you can revise them once. The PDF is already shared with you on the Google Classroom. So for today, we will start with sqrt. As you all must be familiar with this keyword, sqrt says that you are squaring up. We are finding the not squaring up, but we are finding the square root of a given number. So whenever you want to find the square root of a given number, we have a method which says sqrt. So this function returns the square root of the given number. Whatever the number has been given to you, it can actually find the square root of that particular number. So this method is useful for finding out the square root of a given number. How does it return? What is the syntax for it? So syntax is sqrt. In the small parenthesis, n will be passed. Here n will be any integer which you wanted to find out the square root of. It returns the square root of the argument n, and the value n cannot be negative. So suppose if you write -4 or -5, and whose square root are you going to find out? It will not be, the value will not be there. It will not find out the square root for that particular negative value. It find out the square root for only positive values. So in that case, what would be the output we see on the console? sqrt returns a real result. That means it will be returning you integer values, so that which can be actually real values, means it will not be giving you any negative integers. Real integers is all the positive values will be the answer for the given sqrt. We'll just see it on the MySQL command prompt. How does it work? Okay, so we were talking about sqrt function, and let us just take an example of 4. Since 4 is a number whose square root we can easily figure it out. So what would be the answer for this? If 4 is the square root and we want to find out the square root of 4, what will be the answer of this?
2.
It will be 2. So suppose the query part was saying that you cannot take a negative value over here. So if I take a square root of -4, so what will be the answer in that case? It will be null, because it will always give you the real values. That means all the positive integers would only be the answer for sqrt, but it doesn't entertain any negative value in the parentheses, and hence the answer will be null for that case if you pass any negative integers in the square root function. So this is how your square root function works. There are only two possibilities, that it will only take only 2 points to note down, that it will take only positive integer in the parentheses, and if the negative integer is been passed on, then it will not give you the answer for this, but the answer to this will be your null, because it doesn't take the negative integer in the parentheses. It takes only real values, and the output will also be a real value. Now you have UT2 coming up. So you may expect that I might plan the paper like 20 marks of MCQ, which is completely based on your this chapter, this MySQL function, and 30 marks of written part, which will be completely based on your computer network. Because computer network is completely a theory subject, and which has so many subdivisions, like the entire unit is having so many chapters inside it. As I have forwarded the PPTs, so there are so many sub-modules for it. It is already so lengthy. So I may plan it like this time, that the your MCQs will be completely based on like this MySQL functions, because this is just 1 mark questions only, and your theory part will be completely based on your computer networking. So I could plan like this. So in that case, I may give you some questions like sqrt -5 or -6. So in that case, you should know what would the output in these negative values have been taken up. You should be very attentive towards it, that what you are writing about the functions, what options you are choosing, because I will be definitely giving you all the options which can confuse you. So you should be clear from your part that it doesn't take any negative values, but it takes only positive integers, and in case if negative integer is been passed inside the function, it will always give you null value. So that is how your sqrt function works. So let us just see one of the example which says find out the square root of 26. So how will we find? We will find the query, we'll write the query as select sqrt, select sqrt, and in the parentheses the value to which you wanted to find out the square root of. So you will be writing sqrt and 26 in the parentheses. Again, after that, that is just a column name which is optional. If you want to specify, that is good for you. If you do not want to specify, your choice entirely. So this is the way how you can find out the square root of any given number. The query would be, the question would be to you and find out the square root of the value 26. So you should be knowing, you should be very much capable of writing this, that how the sqrt function would have to write. So this is the way how it will be written.
Excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, what if it's a floating point number?
Let us just check, does it accept the floating point of number or not? So we have, let us just take it as, what the number do you want me to take? Shall I take 4.2? So if it is a floating point of value, it will definitely give you the output for that. Only negative integers are not allowed, otherwise it can take all the values. All the values is positive and floating point of values will be accepted by the function, but the negative integers will not be accepted at all.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So moving on to the next function, which is our truncate. So this function returns a number with some digits truncated. Now this is something similar to round function. If you will see the definition, this is something similar to round function, but different in a way also. So see how the syntax is truncate n comma m. Now n will be the number, like any floating point of number to which you wanted to truncate, and m will be the place that how many numbers do you want to truncate. As we were saying in round that 3 digits we want, in the similar way truncate also we can say 3 digits we want, so the remaining one will be all truncated, will be all removed from there. But there is a little bit difference in that. So first we will learn this, with what the truncate is, then we will figure out what the difference could be here. So truncate returns value of argument n truncated to the argument m decimal places. That means if it is written one decimal place, that means after point only one decimal place will be there. If it is written two decimal places, then after point two decimal places will be considered, as we were doing it into the round function. If argument m is given as 0 places, m can be negative to truncate, that is make 0 m digits left to the decimal point. Now they are saying that if you convert m to the 0, then all the numbers which are after floating point will be completely removed. Only the main numbers will be there, which is before float, which is before decimal point. And in case if m is negative, then what will be happen? What do we do in round function if m is negative? What do we generally do in the round function? Those who were present yesterday, what do we do if m is negative in that case in round function? Anyone? Since you were present yesterday and we have solved this round function yesterday, what do you think if
It
m
goes
is negative?
starting off to the
We take
left
the
of the
integer,
decimal.
yeah, the integer part of it.
Yeah, so this time they will not truncate the part which is after decimal, but it will truncate the part which is before the decimal, left of the decimal. So if m is negative, it will truncate the left of the decimal part. So let us just see some of the examples we are performing on SQL command, which says that what function we are using is select truncate. And what do we want to truncate? Suppose I have some number as like this, and I wanted to truncate it till 3 decimal places. Oh, what did I do? Select truncate, and I wanted what is the point something, comma. I wanted to do it till 3 places and terminator. So what do you think the output would be? What do you think the output would be?
123.344.
So that is where round and truncates are different. It will be 0.343, and anyways, why it will be 4, Raj? Until and unless we have 5 or more than 5 over there, we cannot really do that. No, even if I
Yeah.
use truncate for this, the answer will be same, I guess. You can see if I use round, the answer will be same. When the answer will be different. Suppose in round I am using here 5. Then what will be the output in this case?
It will be the same, right?
In round, the values are 1, 2, 3.343. Okay, 3 values are only there. So let me just make it as 5. So what will be the output here in this case?
Now it will be 3.344.
It will be now 3.344. But when the same thing will go with truncate, suppose truncate is written over here. In this case, you can see the value is still 123.343. So this is the difference between round and truncate. Round actually rounds up your values after seeing the next integer value, whatever the next number is there. According to that, it rounds up its values and then give you output. But truncate, irrespective of what the next integer there, it has been followed up, irrespective of that, it just truncates it. It just drops the remaining numbers. If 3 is given, it will just give you 3. It doesn't really care about what has been written at the what number has been followed by 3, which actually matters in round. So if there is a 5, it will convert it to 4. But you can see over here, if it was a 4, means the number which was less than 5, then it won't affect and the same number will come up. So here the rounding is happening, but in truncate it is not so. It will just drop or it will just give those numbers like 3 are given, then it will just give you 3 numbers after decimal place. It won't check whether the next number is 5 or more than 5 so that it can round up the integer. It is not like that. It will just take 3 elements as written. If suppose there are 2 elements written, it will take the 2 elements from there. But it will not check the remaining elements, remaining numbers, whatever the numbers are there. So this is what actually the difference between round and truncate. Now see, when we use a truncate, now suppose instead of 2, if I want a 0 over here, what do you think will the output will be? As we have seen it into the round function, what do you think the output would be in this case? Select truncate and the number of places, the number of numbers, the number of places which you want to take it out is given as 0. So what would be the answer to this?
The same number as in the number itself.
So do you think it will be the number itself? Anyone else?
Or null maybe.
No. If 0 is given, it takes out all the values after your decimal. Only the main part of the number has been given. Even in case of like round also, it works in the same way. Suppose if I write over here round, which we have done yesterday, in case of round also it works in the same way. That if 0 is given in the end and no decimal places are given that which you want to round off or extract, then it gives you only the integer part of it, 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3. All the numbers which are available before the decimal will be given up to you. So this is the way how the 0 works. But what if we have negative index, which is like -2? What do you think will happen to this? And not round, it is truncate now. As we have discussed that if negative integers are there, it works on the left part of the number, like before the decimal. So what will be the output in this case? What will be the output in this case? Let me try.
100.
The output will be 100. Can you justify, Nanya? Why did you say so?
Because to the left of the decimal place is 2 digits, that is -2, right? So making 2 digits 0.
Yeah. So here, when you are truncating, -2 was given, so you have to make 2 digits 0, then it will give you the result 100. And suppose if I have written over here -1, in that case, what would be the answer to this?
120.
120.
The answer will be 120. And what would be the answer in case of round? Since we are discussing about truncate, we should also discuss about round because they are quite confusing to one another. So what will be the answer in this case? -1.
Ma'am, you wrote 123.43. 123.
So answer will be 123.
120.343.
No. I have written -1.
120.
That says that I am working on the left-hand part. Before the float, I have whatever the integer.
120. 120.
So if -1 is written, the answer to it will be 120. And if it is 126, then the answer will be
130.
130.
130 because it is rounding off. And similarly, if it is given over here -2, then what do you think the output would be? 126 and -2. So it will round up in the hundreds place. What it would be then?
200. No, sorry, 100.
100 it will be.
100.
-1 -2. So let us just see the answer will be 100. So what will be the, when it will be 200 then? Suppose if I write it like
More than 5. The tens
150
place
के
will be
ऊपर.
plus five.
so I've written it 166 then. Do you think the output will be 200 now?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay, so this is the way how your round and truncate are different from one another. I hope this is clear to you and will remember it now, so that you will not get confused later on. So solving some of the questions now. So the question from this we have is truncate value 15.79 to 1 decimal place. So tell me the query to write for this. Truncate value 15.79 to 1 decimal place.
Select truncate 15.79, comma 1.
Yes. And what will be the output in that case?
15.7.
15.8.
That's where you are.
Sorry, yeah, 7, sorry.
It will be 15.7 because truncate doesn't, it really doesn't matter for truncate whatever is the next number following up. It will be 15.7 only. Next question we have is truncate value 15.79 to 10th place. What will be the query written for this?
Select truncate of bracket 15.79 comma -1
Yes, and output to this will be
20.
sure.
20.
The output to this will be 10, not 20. Why are you rounding it off? Output will be 10, not
Ma'am,
20.
there's a sign, right?
आप जब round off करते हो तभी 20 आता है. Here you do not have to round off, you just have to drop the numbers.
Acha, okay, yeah, right. Sorry, my bad.
In fact, you can read the note given over here. Please note there is a difference between round and truncate functions. Truncate function just truncates the digits without rounding them off. So this is how your truncate and your round works. The next we have, so this was all your numeric functions. We are all done with numeric functions. The next function you have to study is date and time function. So date functions operate on values of the date data type. There are some syntax to be written for this if you want to extract the current date. So CUR date, that is per date, or current underscore date, both of the ways the function can be used for figuring out what is the current date now. So this function returns you the current date. There are so many functions like this which are actually working on only date. Some of them are working on year, some of them are working on month, and then date, then days. So there are different functions under this topic. So the first function which you are studying is to find out the current date of the, that means to find out the current date only. So if you want to find out the current date, you can use it into the 3 ways. that is cur date, current underscore date, or current underscore date without parentheses will also work. Now it returns the current date as a value in year, month, and date. So this will be the syntax in which it will be returning you the current date. Or in some times it might return like this, depending on whether the function is used in a string or a numeric context. We'll see it into the console, how does it matter. Current date or current underscore date function is the synonym of cur date. That means we can use anyway, anyone. So let us just see what is the current date by using this function. So we can use select, and suppose we write complete current underscore date and without parenthesis. Then let us just see, so you can see how does it work. It will show you the current date, and suppose if I use it with a small parenthesis, then still it is working. And suppose I do not even write this, but I only write cur date. Yeah, this was there, no? So see, all three functions are working, all three will return you the date, and all three functions do not take anything inside the parentheses. If you are noticing, you can see I am not putting anything inside the small parentheses. By the time we were actually putting so many strings, if you are working on string, we were putting a string inside the parentheses. If we were working on numbers, we are putting the numbers inside the parentheses, but in date function, nothing is being passed. Empty parentheses are there. Just you would have to use the method to find out what is the current date. And it is not like that we cannot use, we do not really use it. It is being used at many places. Like some of the cases, we randomly generate the password. So in random generation of the password, so many people use it like take out the current date from the system, that on which date they have just made their account, something like this. They can take the current date plus your username together to frame up the random password. So there are so many places where it is being used. So you should know that how to take out the current date from the system by using MySQL. So we will see example if it is given in your textbook. So the example for the date. Okay, so this was the example you have is write a query to display the current date on your system, which we have already done. It is just select per date and a semicolon, which will give you the current date of the system. Similarly, there is another question which says write a query to display date after 10 days of the current date on your system. So in that case, you can just add the 10 days, and you can see the output that before there was 3 as a date, but now there is 13 as a date. So when you add a number to a date, then the return value is not formatted as date. Remember one thing. When you are using this plus 10, it will definitely add up to your date. But now see, the format was like this before. But the added values are not in that format. That means the hyphen is not there. It is simple, values are being separated with the space. So when you add a number to a date, then written value is not formatted as date. So let us just see once in our console, does it work like that or not? Suppose I wanted to do, I want the date, and I wanted to see that after 20 days, what will be the date as I have a UT2 coming up. So a semicolon followed by it. You can see how is it visible. First of all, anyway, if I will put 20 days, it will reach, since today is 20, it will reach to 40, which is not possible. So it just adds up your number, nothing else they are doing. If you will add 20, if you will add 30, they will add it up to your days. Dates. So this is how it is functioning, and you can see the number is not in the output of the date format also. But it will just add up to the date, whatever the date is there. Okay, so coming on to the next function, which is date. This function extracts the date part of the date or date time expression. Suppose so many systems are having a date or a date time expression saved together. So in that case, if you have date Or in fact, if your date and time together been saved, in that case, how can you actually figure out the date, that what is the date part of it? So in that case, you can extract the date part of the date or date time expression by using this particular function date, and in the parenthesis you can go with the expressions. You can see one of the questions. So write a query to extract from date from a given date time value. So they have given us date and time both. So if you want to extract the date from the given string, you can just write the date function and you can get the output of it. Since we are left with less than 10 minutes now, I'll just read it. I do not really think that it really requires a lot of practice. Just reading will help you out. Next we have is month. So if you want to find out the month of a given date, just use the function month and the date inside it. So it will give you the month. Like you can see the example, if this is over there 2009, second month and third of date. So if you want to extract the month from this, you can just write the month like this. Now if you want to extract the month name, you can write the month name as a function name and you can pass on the date inside it. So in that case, month name will come out. Similarly, we have day. So if you wanted to find out day, just write the day and the date for it. If you wanted to find out the day name, and there is a function saying day name. So you can just use the day name and the date inside it. If you wanted to find out the year, you can use year as like this. So you can just read it once. See, the day name can be figured out like this. I hope there would be no doubt to you in this, because this is just, and the ones which are crossed is not in your syllabus. So this day of month is not in your syllabus, but even though it is asked that which day of month is there in the given date, you can just use day of month, because the query will also be given as like this only. You can see the question itself, display day of the month. It is clearly saying that okay, day of the month they want, then just put the day of the month as a function over there. Next we have is day of week. Just use the day of week and put it the date. They will give you which day of which week is there. If it is the 6th day of a week, it will give you 6th. If it is second, it will give you second. Now it is starting from 1 is equal to Sunday. If you can see over here, 1 is equals to Sunday. So when you ask for a day, you can calculate it yourself also. That 1 is Sunday, 2 is Monday. So like that way, they are just giving out the days. So if it is a Tuesday, they will be giving you 3. The output will be, in that case, it will be 3. Day of the year, it is like you have 365 days, it will start from 1. So the last day will be your 366. So in that way, they will give you which particular day is there of this year. And the last function we have is now. This function returns you the current date and time. See, if you use current date, it gives you only date. But if you use now, it will give you current date and time together in this format. That is year, month, and date, hour, minute, and second. In this way, they will be giving you the complete date and time. So it returns a constant time that indicates the time at which the statement began to execute. Also, when it will give you that particular time when your that particular query is executed. So that moment of time, they will be giving you this now function. This that particular time and date will be given to when the query will be fired. So that was all for today, and we are done with the chapter. Since it is not in your syllabus, that's all, I guess. Yeah. Any doubts with this? You see, the date function is like, अभी day निकालना है तो day name निकालना है तो day name लिख दो, date निकालना है तो date लिख दो, month निकालना है तो month function लिख दो, year निकालना है तो year function लिख दो. So this is all very simple. You can just revise it once if you want. Otherwise, nothing else so big is in that we need to discuss about it. Do you want to discuss about it? Then we can take another next lecture for it. So do you want that? Anyone who wants to discuss this? Day, date, month, year, now. You can read it once, you'll understand it. I do not think really there was much to explain. That's why I just crossed it like that. There is nothing to explain as such, because there are simple lines. If they are saying find out the date, you write date function. If they say find out the day, you write day function. If they say find out the year, you write down the year function. And in all the functions, the date will only be the argument. Date will only be passed. Nothing else will be passed. And the only difference between current date and now function is that current date will only give you the current date, but now function will give you the current date as well as the current time on which we are working. So that was all from my side. Anything else which you want